so we'll just jump into our concept of the day. I wanted to talk about this with Mike because this was the topic of our workshop that we did with Mike, and it's the concept of the day is range of emotion. And it is a term to describe an actor's range of expression. It reflects not only how varied the types of emotions the actor can implement effectively, but also the degree to which they can realistically portray them. So what was really cool about, I think that this is a huge skill that you have as a comedian, but I think also in solo improv, if you can show different ranges of emotion, I think you can definitely heighten your characters a lot.
Gives you more to work with. Yeah.
Right. But like when I went into improv, I thought, okay, I'm either sad or I'm happy or I'm jealous or I'm mad, but I didn't, what we kind of went through is, okay, there's a 1 to 100 of full scale of how emotional that you are. You're not going to get as upset at, a bug getting stepped on as you are of like your grandfather getting, smushed by a bridge. Yeah, stepped on. Exactly. Sorry, Grandpa. Like you can be much more upset.
Those damn giants.
Such a nuisance.
The way that I learned range of emotion was through a former teacher of mine, Chris Griggs, who again is a master at his craft. Chris would have us kind of walk around the room in a very neutral, kind of ambiguous way, and just kind of just walk, just like find your own path. You don't have to walk with anyone else. You just kind of like do your own thing. And then he would call out an emotion. And his philosophy is there's 4 basic human emotions: happiness, sadness, fear, and anger. And every other emotion that we experience as a human being is either a combination or a derivative of any number of those 4, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to break it down to its barest of bones, right? It's happiness, sadness, fear, and anger. So he would call out one of those things. And then you have to embody this emotion. So if the emotion is anger, which is a very easy go-to emotion for a lot of people. Damn it. Oh, you stupid son of a gun. Right. And Chris would look at the collective group of students and try to gauge as a whole, where is everyone? Because for the most part, people feed off of each other's energy, right? So one person starts off with, another person starts off with, So the rest of the class kind of find that middle ground between and maybe we're at like a kind of thing, right? I know I'm being super specific here, but he will kind of look at that and be like, all right, maybe we're at like a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Let's take it up to a 5 collectively. Let's try to take it up to a 5. Now let's take it up to a 7. Let's get out to a 10. And then sometimes he would surprise us and say, you can take this further. Let's go to 12, right? And you're not expecting that. You think, I'm playing at a 10. This is as big as I can get. No. It can get bigger, right? So teach, and then we'd scale back down to a 1 and be like, man, I stepped on an ant. Like, what does that look? And then we'd switch the emotion to fear or happiness or sadness. And I remember I was doing this exercise. It was solo improv training, but it was in a theater in Atlanta, which it's hard to say in Atlanta. You have to make that break. In Atlanta. I'm sure this is fascinating for anyone listening right now.
It's very important. Take notes, guys.
So in Atlanta, I was doing the solo improv workshop, and there was this guy. I have no idea what his name is. Let's call him Peter. So Peter is on stage, and I'm having him do like this, like the same range of emotion exercise, but by himself. So he has to feed off of his own energy. And I asked him to go down to a 1 and up to a 10. And he was one of those very stoic individuals who never showed emotion ever in his personal life, ever. Like, hey, your grandma died. Oh, that sucks. Hey, you just won the lottery. Oh, that's really cool. I'm glad. So getting him to play a range of emotion was really challenging. And the owner of the theater comes up and tells me, like, Mike, he's kind of a lost cause. Like, it's like you're not going to get anything out of him. And I'm like, oh, I'll get something out of him. So I get in this guy's face and I start screaming at him. And I'm like, start screaming with me, like match my same level of like, "Grah!" And he goes, roar. And I'm like, no, just, "Rah!" And so eventually, like by screaming at him, and like I wasn't pushing him or hitting him, but I was kind of grabbing him and shaking him a little bit, like to try and stir some emotion in him, right? And eventually he got up to maybe not like what my level 10 is, but he totally broke out of his shell. And once he did that, then we could start exploring other emotions. I'm like, this is the beginning of your journey. You are not an emotions master after taking one workshop with some idiot from New York. Like, you need to keep on this journey. But now that you've broken through, keep breaking through. You know what it feels like to break through. So do it more often.
Mhm.
And just to have the theater owner pull me aside and be like, you're not going to get anything out of this kid. And I did. It
Mhm.
was such a gratifying feeling to say, anybody can do this. If Peter, what do I call him? Peter? If Peter can do this, anybody can do this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, and I think too, I mean, I don't know, for me, that's what I love about improv, because it's that freedom that you're talking about, where it's like, I'm just thinking that Peter, after that, I'm hoping, came away from that feeling like a release, an outlet, wow, like, why do I feel so alive right now and so light and free? Because it's like, I just went for it. I didn't judge myself. I didn't, try to suppress that part of me that maybe I do that in my everyday life. It was just this, and there was no consequences for just expressing myself. And I feel like that's why I know I love improv so much, because it's just that freedom, that feeling of,
I
and I
like how
know
you
we
put
talk
that.
about what's that?
No, I love how you put that. There's no consequences for creative expression. You
Yeah.
phrased it a little differently, but essentially there's no consequences for like feeling
Right.
emotion. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, not myself, but I think Mike, you and I are very much, and just to like, we're very like emotional people. We don't have issues with, yeah, we don't have issues with expressing ourselves. But I think for a lot of people, emotions are scary, and they're meant to be bottled, and they're meant to be kept inside. And I think that's why improv does attract people. Just this, kind of going back to something we talked about earlier about just like there's this community of people, and improv doesn't happen. I mean, it does for you, but not really in isolation. Like, it's about relationships. And even in your solo improv, I would think that you, even though you're up there by yourself, I've saw those videos, and it's like you immediately start building a relationship with the audience members.